the top stories, more than 58% of public officials filed declarations. Haitian citizens mobilized against government, and Japan counts down to moon sniper landing. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, January 18th, 2024. I'm Scotticia Hendrickson. Nationally, more than 58% of public officials in St. Kitts and Nevis who are required to declare their assets have done so with the Integrity Commission. That is according to Director of Public Prosecutions DPP Adelaide Smith.
Things that we have to take on board in terms of having to have those things filed. But it's being done. I've been promised that I would get that information shortly. I can tell you though that after the press conference, as of maybe around after the 15th, compliance went up from 14% to about 58%. And after my meeting this week, I can say that compliance has gone up even further. I don't know how much, but I've told people have been coming in to fill the declarations.
The DPP said there are some public officials who expressed concern about confidentiality while filing their declarations.
People may have their different reasons for not filing the declarations, but one of those cannot be the inconvenience of it, right? The fact that it's inconvenient, there's a greater purpose to be achieved insofar as transparency in government. I've also been told that persons are concerned about confidentiality on the part of the Commission in terms of keeping the information indoors and taking adequate measures to ensure that it doesn't reach into the wrong hands. Well, that would be unauthorized information, right? And for any member of a commission, and they're well aware of it because we've had discussions about it, that they could be prosecuted, number one, on the unauthorized disclosure of official information. Yeah. Yes, the Unauthorized Disclosure of Official Information Act. And number two, the person who is affected could bring a civil suit against the Commission. I would imagine negligence. The Commission has a duty to ensure that the information is kept in a secure manner.
DPP Smith was a guest on the January 17th edition of In Focus, speaking on measures for anti-corruption. St. Kitts and Nevis's Minister of Sports, Honorable Samuel Duggins, joined other regional ministers of sports and top-level officials from the World Anti-Doping Agency at the third forum with ministers responsible for sports in the Caribbean for a two-day symposium from January 16th and 17th in Jamaica. The convention focused on further harmonizing the region's approach to clean sport. The session ended with the Minister of Sport, WADA officials, and the representatives from the Caribbean signing the Kingston Declaration, an affirmation of Caribbean sport ministers' advocacy and support for clean sport. Minister Duggins lobbied colleagues at the roundtable discussions to consider the restructuring of the current uniform stipulation for countries by WADA to tier systems to reflect interventions that are more suited to St. Kitts and Nevis and other small island states. The sport minister highlighted St. Kitts and Nevis's current level of compliance, 73%, with the UNESCO Convention Against Doping in Sports, compared to non-compliance just over 2 years ago, and noted that such is indicative of his government's commitment to clean sport. Minister Duggins also utilized the conference to share St. Kitts and Nevis's plan to officially launch its anti-doping in sport campaign within schools at the end of January. The Department of Marine Resources intends to launch a project in 2024 to construct artificial reefs intended to increase the fish and lobster population in Nevis's waters. DMR Deputy Director based on Nevis, Corey Maynard, said the island will benefit directly from this federal program. He was speaking during his presentation outlining the department's activities for this year at the Nevis Island Administration Ministry of Agriculture Agenda 2024 meeting on Tuesday. Maynard stated that the Marine Management Unit plans to install some artificial reefs that will be made from conch shells. He said that this initiative will be in partnership with scuba divers and conch divers, where when they take conch from the shell, they bring the shells to the shore. Maynard also mentioned that cages will be made and the conch shells will be placed in the cages, which will then act as nurseries for juvenile fish, lobsters, and other reef species. In regional news, on Monday, thousands of Haitians took to the streets to protest against the government of Ariel Henry due to the serious humanitarian situation that the country is going through. More in this report.
Mobilizations took place in different cities such as Ocap, Jeremy, and Petit Guaf, among others, after former Senator Guy Philippe made a call for civil disobedience. 14 years after the earthquake that devastated the Caribbean country, the Haitian people are on general strike in protest against the multiple crises affecting the population, especially in terms of security and access to the basic rights such as food and health. Nowadays, it is estimated that violent paramilitary groups control approximately 80% of the capital Port-au-Prince, a city with 2.5 million inhabitants. Of this, hundreds of thousands have been displaced from their neighborhoods and are internal refugees forced to live in stadiums, schools, or public squares.
The island's Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Ernest Hillier, has joined calls by citizens for an end to gun violence. The country has already lost lives since the start of the year. More in this DBS News report.
As of Tuesday, January 16th, the island had recorded 5 homicides. This has raised concerns among citizens, especially with the latest homicide of a French-Canadian citizen who was shot in Bonte-Groseilliers, an otherwise peaceful community. Sharing his thoughts on the situation, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Tourism Dr. Ernest Hillier has stressed the role of each citizen in dealing with the issue. According to Dr. Hillier, the spiraling homicide rate will not be curbed without the involvement of all.
The police, nor the government, nor the church can ever solve this without the support of the community. People have to be willing to share information anonymously. To deal with the problem. Nothing can be done if the community itself does not take ownership of the space that they live in, and to say, look, if something happens in my space, I will share it. And I think, like he did, I want to appeal to all St. Lucians to share information. If you don't want to share it with the police, share it with the clergy, with the church. If you don't want to share it with the church, share it with a lawyer or somebody you can trust so they can pass on the information.
Individuals from various sectors of society have expressed their opinions and thoughts on how to tackle the issue of crime on the island. Some have suggested imposing harsher penalties and punitive measures to discourage potential offenders. However, Dr. Hillier believes that this approach alone will not effectively address the problem. He believes that a broader solution is necessary, which includes various initiatives, starting with identifying the root cause of the issue.
The government is also in consultation with other Caribbean countries to find out what they are doing, what's working for them, what's not working. We're in touch with our international partners, the US, the French, the Americans, to share with us, expertise, to share with us, practices. It is a serious issue, and we keep trying to find actions that will work. And I think, though, we have to always start off with the clear understanding that you will not solve it overnight. It will take some time for us to rein it in and to bring it in, and it would require a multifaceted approach. It cannot be just stricter measures will solve it. We have to go deep into the causation and to see how we can deal with it. And even causation is not one factor. There are a multiplicity of factors.
He indicated that the government is employing various measures towards the goal of bringing down the island's homicide rate. However, Dr. Hillier did point out there was a need to do more.
We need to have broader engagements at the school level, at the parental level, community level. We need a lot more psychological and social support, for persons in communities. It will take a monumental effort on the part of all stakeholders for us to really start addressing this issue.
For the DBS Newsworld, I am Zane Romulus.
In international news, dubbed the Moon Sniper, a Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency probe is attempting to land within 100 meters of its target, a technology JAXA says is unprecedented and essential in the search for moon water and human habitability.
Japan aims to become the fifth country to put a spacecraft on the moon when it attempts a precision landing on Friday. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency probe aims to land within 100 meters or 328 feet of its target. The agency says the technology is unprecedented and essential in the search for moon water and human habitability. If successful, it would be a boost for a space program that suffered a wave of setbacks and has been eclipsed by rival China. The probe will start a 20-minute touchdown phase from 1500 GMT on Friday. It will try to land on a target site roughly the size of 2 athletic tracks on the slope of a crater just south of the lunar equator. Here's Kazuto Saiki, a professor at Ritsumeikan University, who developed the probe's near-infrared camera that will analyze moon rocks.
Once this technology is proven successful, we'll be able to land on difficult terrain, such as the moon's poles. I hope this will help Japan to keep its technology advanced at a very high level in the world.
All systems are go.
Tokyo is looking to play a bigger role in space, partnering with close ally Washington to respond to China. But its space agency, also known as JAXA, has faced multiple setbacks in its rocket development. That includes launch failures last year of its new flagship H-3 rocket, which aimed to match the lower costs of rockets by companies like SpaceX. JAXA has twice landed on small asteroids, but a moon landing is much more difficult due to its gravity. In an interview, Bledin Bowen, a space policy specialist at the University of Leicester, underlined the importance of the Moon Sniper's mission to Japan.
Japan being the fifth state to land a rover on the moon would be very important and significant because it will demonstrate its space industry and capabilities to the world and global industrial interests. It will also demonstrate that it can keep up with the times as more and more countries are much more interested in the moon than ever before.
Bowen doesn't think the technology will be a game changer, but could help lower the costs of accessing the moon. Upon landing, the Moon Sniper will deploy 2 mini probes that will take pictures of the spacecraft. JAXA says it'll take up to a month to verify whether the probe achieved their high-precision landing goals after the touchdown.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak defeated a Conservative rebellion over his plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda, winning a costly victory that weakens his authority and deepens division in his party.
The lower house of Britain's Parliament on Wednesday passed Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's controversial Rwanda scheme, which would allow Britain to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Sunak's victory was costly, though, with his authority weakened and divisions in his party exposed.
The ayes to the right, 320. The noes to the left, 276. The ayes have it, look!
In a nutshell, the bill aims to override a decision by the UK Supreme Court in November that declares it unlawful to send asylum seekers to the East African country. Sunak has made stopping asylum seekers crossing over from France in small boats a central aim of his government. He defended his goals on Wednesday during a question and answer before the vote.
It is important that we stop the boats because illegal migration is simply not fair, Mr. Speaker. It's not right that some people jump the queue, that they take away our resources to help those who are the most compassionate, that need our most help.
In the past 2 days, Conservative Party rebels voiced their opposition to the bill and expressed fury at what they saw as Sunak's disregard for their concerns. Right-wing critics say the bill doesn't go far enough and that there are loopholes which will be seized upon by asylum seekers to stop their deportation. Britain's former immigration chief, Robert Jenrick.
We have to get people out of the country within days, not months. And the operational plan behind this bill foresees that people will take months to be removed from the country. So what will happen is that our detained capacity will be filled, people will then be bailed to hotels, they will then abscond and never be seen again.
In the end, only 11 of Tuesday's almost 60 rebels voted against the bill. Some worried that if they did not back it, they could inadvertently collapse the government. Yvette Cooper, Shadow Home Secretary from the opposition Labour Party, spoke after the vote.
Former Tory cabinet ministers, deputy chairs from all sides queuing up to tell us it's a bad bill, it won't work, it won't protect our borders, it won't comply with international law, it's fatally flawed. The only thing the Tories all seem to agree on is that the scheme is failing, the law won't solve it, and the Prime Minister is failing too, and they know it.
The Rwanda legislation will head to Parliament's House of Lords next, where it could face stumbling blocks. While Sunak has promised that deportations would begin in spring this year, it is not clear when exactly those flights would begin. Last month, British media also reported that the government was struggling to find airlines which would agree to provide flights to take the asylum seekers to Rwanda.
And now for the weather. Present weather is partly cloudy skies. Temperature is 27 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are a moderate breeze of 18 miles per hour from a northeasterly direction. Seas are 1.5 to 2.1 meters or 5 to 7 feet. Weather forecast in St. Kitts and Nevis today will be partly cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a 60% or moderate chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 5:58 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:44 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Scotticia Hendrickson.